All right, chapter 1 is the introduction. So we're going to actually today we're going to cover the background, the history, some of the different types of psychologists that we have, and then our research method. The research method is really important because it's actually going to be the steps you're going to take to design your research project. Okay, so if you have questions during that time, that will be the best time to make sure your research project is aligned with the scientific method. Okay, so if you have questions at that point, you really want to look at it. All right, when we talk about what is psychology, when you say psychology, all of you started coming up with some different ideas when we first met last week. But the scientific description, the definition that we all look at in regards to psychology is the psychology is the science. Let's stop right there with the word science. What does science mean? Okay. What makes something a science? You just use the same word too. Has a formula. It's a formula. Who's your English teacher? Okay. Do we need to do some stand up, sit down, fights? Because y'all seem like you need some adrenaline running. What it makes something a science? What does it do, Katina? It's proven. Okay, so it literally means we've studied it and proven it. So psychology is actually a proven theories. They're proven facts. They're proven evidence. It's proven facts and evidence about the mind and behavior. Okay, the mind. We're going to use these words when we talk about mind. We're going to use the words cognition. And we're going to use the words mental processing. Cognitive and mental processing mean the same thing. We're going to interchange them. When you do mental processing, what does that mean? To process something means I've done what? Thought about it. What does it mean when I think about something? You're going to think about it. Yeah. I'm going to process it. What does it mean to process? Fatima, you just use them back and forth. Thinking for the process. What does it mean to process? You guys say it all the time. I processed this. I thought about it. What does it mean? I've learned it. I've worked through it. What'd you say? I understand it. So literally when we say the science of it literally means I thought about it, I worked through it, I processed it, I understand it. Sometimes I might not comprehend it, but I understand what you're trying to say. Does that make sense? That's what psychology studies. We also do behavior. You want to write this down. Behavior has three things you can do with them. You can observe it, change it, and control it. Observe, change, and control behavior. Observe, change, and control behavior. So what can I do with behavior? What can I do with behavior? What's another word for cognitive processing? What can I do with behavior? One more time all together. Observe. All right. Observe means I can do what to it? Watch it. Change it means I can do what? Manipulate it. Control it means I can do what? Control it. I can start it and stop it. Does that make sense? So in psychology, we are literally looking at how you process things, understand things, comprehend things, learn things, how you how I can observe you, how you have changed things, how you stop things. We've covered everything. And we said it and sum it up in psychology, the science of the mind and behavior. Okay? That's probably like number 2 on your final exam. What is the definition of psychology? And I'm expecting everybody to get that one correct. Okay? Go ahead, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, now we're about to go all the way back to the beginning. The beginning was literally how we started psychology. So we started this field. Everybody knows the field now in regards to a lot of different aspects. But we started with a basic concept. The first school of thought, these are called schools of thought. The first school of thought is structuralism. It is the first school of thought in psychology. founded by William Wundt. He is also known as the father of psychology. Who's the father of psychology? What's the first school of thought? The rest of y'all lost? What's the first school of thought? Who founded it? He's the what? All right. Remember, y'all got to talk back because it's going to be, we're about to go through like 8 of these. What's the structuralism? And who's the founder? And he's known as the? See how I'm not hearing nothing neither, right? All right, let's understand what structuralism is all about. There's 3 concepts in structuralism. You want to write these down. It's how you feel, what you think, and what you can picture. How you feel, what you think, and what you can picture. How you feel, what you think, and what you can picture. Structuralism is what? Structuralism is what you first what? Feel, what you, and then what you picture. Okay? When we talk about the first one, what you feel, feelings, where do feelings come from? Hurt? Heart. You always, how many times have you said in a day, I feel so, what does it mean? I feel tired. I feel confused. Did the tired come from the same place as the confusion? No. Where did the tired come from? The body. Where did the confusion come from? The brain. So what would this probably say? That these different things of feeling come from where? You're born with them? See, now, for example, I'm so happy she said that. Structuralism was so basic that we didn't even think analyzing occurred. We just literally thought your senses picked up something and you gave it a response. It was that simple back there. Does that make sense? It was so simple that literally if I felt it, I gave it a label. That was what structuralism was all about. If I feel it, I understand it. If I can picture it, I said it. That was all it was about. That was the basis of structuralism. It was literally what am I aware of and that I can actually explain. Does everybody understand structuralism? Okay? The major part inside of structuralism is what is called introspection, looking within. Looking within means I am fully aware of what's going on. You want to write that down? I am fully aware of what's going on. Introspection. I am fully aware of what's going on. So now you give me an example of a person that was experiencing structuralism. Give me something in your life that you can actually look at structuralism as the school of thought of what you're dealing with. That's it. There's no processing about it. I want it. You took it away from me. I'm mad. And if you're going to say, why are you mad? Because I want it. Some of you still do that. I want it. Give it to me. Why do you want it? How many of you are over 18? Oh, good. We got a class over 18. All right. So all of you were one time 13. Yes? We all agree. How many of you ever went to your mother and said, I need these shoes? I really need them. And she said what? No. Because what? You don't need them, you what? You want them. Introspectionally says, I feel it, I need it. I don't understand nothing more than what I feel, I respond to. Does that make sense? That was back then. We've got a little bit more sophisticated lately. But structuralism was the first school of thought. Then what started to happen, functionalism. James came and said, I understand what you mean, that's really good, but it's not about just what we know or what we're aware of. We need to actually see how do we function with what we know. So functionalism came in and literally said, how do you function with what you are aware of? You want to write that down. How do you function with what you are aware of? How do you function with what you are aware of? How do you function with what you are aware of? Okay? Does that make sense? So, we've got our structuralism unit. We know that we're cold. Does everybody understand that? Everybody in this room has been cold before, correct? That's structuralism. I'm cold. Functionalism will now say, what do you do or how do you function being cold? I'm not processing anything other than I'm cold. How am I functioning? Does everybody understand so far? All right. I am asking you these questions because your exam literally gives you scenarios and you have to decide, is it structuralism? Is it functionalism? Or is it the 9 other ones I'm about to teach you? Okay. Literally what they are is they're like, um, you know how you have a pediatrician, you have a gynecologist, you have an internist, you have a cardiologist, you have an oncologist. That's what these are. They're literally, everybody decides they believe in something different. So structuralism is the first ones that we believed in. Functionalism was another department that we believe in. Do you follow? Yes, no? Everybody, some people shaking heads, some people just sitting there, some people just. Functionalism and structuralism we no longer use. So this was like, structuralism was the first school. It was like when first the person first finally said, we're going to start psychology. We're going to start this field, and the field is going to be called structuralism. That was the first part that we ever did. Structuralism started, but then functionalism came and grabbed structuralism and said, you're missing another unit. We found out some more about people. We're now going to call it functionalism. Does that make sense? These two did. These two we've now destroyed. We no longer use these. Just that simple. One thing about psychology, don't make people think psychology analyze. Psychology analyze. Don't. Some stuff is literally just what it is. It was nothing. It was literally, they didn't even understand the whole thing. All they knew right now is what we consciously can tell each other. Does that make sense? Okay. Number 3, we then came about with another thought. We still use this thought today. Okay, so this is a school of thought that people still use, and it's called Gestalt psychology. It's actually discovered by Wertheimer. Max Wertheimer actually discovered the school of Gestalt psychology. Gestalt psychology, still based on consciousness. We're still in this whole conscious thing. But the school of Gestalt is based on, I look at the big picture, not the sum of its parts. You want to write that down. I look at the whole, not the sum of its parts. I look at the whole and not the sum of its parts. I look at the whole, not the sum of its parts. Okay? Let's all take a trip in the neighborhood. We're all walking down the street. What do you see? Lamps, houses, okay? Houses and cars. Go back. What do you see? The street. Go back. What do you see? Trees. What do you're standing on the corner. What do you really see? Y'all don't know what y'all see? Never. You're standing outside. What do you see? You guys are doing great because you're proving my point. You're giving me the big picture. That's not what you see. You see bricks, windows, doors, door handles, panels. You see the little smallest units, but what did you tell me you saw? A house, some cars. You gave the big picture because it took too much for you to say the little parts. Gestalt psychology says as humans, we always look at a big picture because we don't take time to look at the parts. How many of you ever had a diet or tried a diet before? Okay. Me too. Now, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. You get up and you're like, it's Monday. I'm starting this diet. It's going to be great. I packed my lunch. I got my little fruit. I got my vegetables. I weighed it out. Fabulous. I'm going to do this. I even walked this morning. I'm on a roll. Then it hit 12 o'clock. And everybody's like, you want to go to lunch? And you're like, no, I made my lunch. And they're like, come on. And you're like, no. 2 o'clock, you're feeling a little on the hungry side. And you walk by the vending machine. And you're like, oh, no. You go into the break room and there's some donuts, your favorite kind. And you probably think, I could do this. You finish Monday. Tuesday you did good too. Then Wednesday hit, them donuts came back and you grabbed one. What did you say after you ate that donut? There you go. I done messed up my diet. I'll start again on Monday. No, you messed up that moment, but the big picture was, I don't have time to say it was just, and then people say, well, when did you mess up? 12:03 Wednesday. When did you mess up? I messed the whole week up. No, you didn't. But the idea of Gestalt says is we always look at the big picture because we don't have time for the little small parts. Somebody asked you how your day was. Horrible. Was your whole day horrible? Probably not. It was probably a moment, but because you look at, in regards to Gestalt, you look at the big picture. Does that make sense? Okay. We still use Gestalt today. You can actually find a psychologist who literally says they believe in Gestalt therapy. All right? If it messes up your mind frame. Perfect example. Remember on the first day I asked you guys, what have you heard about this course? And people go, I heard this, I heard that. I ask you because the minute you get the ideal in your head that it's hard, guess what's going to happen for every day of this course? It's going to be hard. Okay, when you wake up in the morning, you say, today's going to be a good day. You can lose your keys, get hit in the car, be late to work, and still be like, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Now, if you woke up that same day and said, this day, oh my God, it's horrible. Everything that happens, you're going to support that it was horrible. Okay? I'm going to teach you in this class, your mind can actually make you sick, yet there's no biological reason for your sickness. Your mind can stop you from walking, yet you have the ability to move. Okay? Your mind can take your ability away of talking, yet you have a voice. Your mind can make you pregnant, yet you never had sex. Okay? There are actually women who menstrual cycles stop. They start to lactate, which means they produce milk. Their uterus starts to grow. They look like they're pregnant. They sleep more. They eat more. Yet there is no fetus present. But because they're told their mind that they were pregnant, now their body is responding to the pregnancy. That's how powerful your mind is. So when you go in math class and you're like, I'm going to fail this, guess what's probably going to occur? Your mind has now set it up to say we're failing. That's why you ever heard the statement, fake it till you make it? The idea is that if you fake the mind out, it'll actually start to buy into what you're saying. That's why I always tell you affirmations are great, because if you keep saying them, the mind starts to buy into them. Okay? Psychodynamic. This is probably the one that everybody knows about. You've probably heard of this man 5,000, 10,000, a million times. Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is still used today more than ever. He's probably on shows that you've watched. I know people after this class literally say they watch shows like The Big Bang Theory and all these other shows, and they're like, oh my God, they talked about, because this man is known for a lot of things. He was the first one to introduce the field to the unconscious mind. So Freud literally introduced the unconscious mind to us. Everybody understands consciousness is what you're aware of. But Freud said it's more than that. You have an aspect that you're unaware of. And he literally says this is the biggest part of who you are. What he looked at is what is called the iceberg theory. Freud looks at the iceberg theory and he divides your mind into three parts. Okay? The top of it is the conscious mind. What do we know about an iceberg? It's bigger at the bottom. What else do we know about it? Being that it's bigger at the bottom. We're in a ship. We're approaching an iceberg. You only see the tip. Do we know how much this is? We have no clue. So Freud literally says this is like your preconscious or your subconscious. Conscious means I can get to it. If I ask you right now, what's today? Thursday. Do we all know that right now? Did anybody know it was not Thursday? Okay, that's your conscious mind. Your subconscious literally says, what did we do on Tuesday? Y'all are going to do what? You're going to think about it for a minute. Like, we went over the syllabus. That's your preconscious. I can get to it, but I got to think about it for a moment. It's not just sitting there to say, oh, it's Thursday. I got to dig for it. I can get it, but I got to dig a minute. But the most part, he says, is the unconscious. It's the stuff you cannot get, but yet it's there. Okay? It's the stuff that makes you who you are. Okay. Let's look at a 2-year-old. She's 2 years old, and her mother told her she was unwanted, a mistake, ugly, she regrets having her, she's a pain. She's 2 years old. And she's being told all these things. She's now 42. What type of person do we see? She might be attention seeking. She's meek. She's depressed. She's very submissive. What else do we probably see? Traumatic. Low self-esteem. Okay. Does she horrible relationships? And then you ask her, why is she this way? She's going to tell you what? It's just me. I've always been this way. Because literally this right here contains your entire life. Things that you're unaware of, but actually it influences you as today. Does that make sense? She might also be very ambitious, very determined, perfectionist, literally because she's trying to prove that this isn't true. Does that make sense? A lot of you sit here today, there's things that have happened to you back in a long 2, 3 years old. You can't recall it, but it's influencing everything you do. Does that make sense? Okay, that's all Freud. Freud also believed in what he calls the dream analysis. Freud believes that every dream you have has a purpose. It's literally the unconscious mind telling you something you can't deal with in the conscious mind. Okay. He also does what is called psychoanalysis. So currently today we do psychodynamic therapy, which is short therapy, or psychoanalysis, which is long-term therapy, about 2 to 3 years. Psychodynamic is about 12 weeks. Psychoanalysis is about 2-3 years. So if you go to a therapist and you say, what type of therapist are you? They might say, I'm a psychodynamic therapist, I'm a psychoanalysis. It literally tells you they're going to use Freud's approaches to deal with your situation. Okay? Freud believed 2 things. He feels that everything you do is motivated by 2 things, sex and aggression. You want to write that down. He feels that everything you do is motivated by 2 things, sex and aggression. Freud was a little on the crazy side. He actually died of syphilis, and he was a cocaine addict. But he did a lot of studies to help the field of psychology. Sex and aggression. He feels everything you do. Everything we talk about Freud is going to have something to do with sex and aggression. He feels that a lot of things you do are little hidden desires that you don't know about, and you act them out. Freud also believed that women have what is called penis envy. Yeah. Freud feels that as women, we have lacked this one body part our entire life. And because we lack it, we are constantly trying to control all that we get our hands onto to make up for the deficiency of not having this one body part. Now, let's just say you have a woman in a relationship. I'm going to show you how Freud might have some points. And the man tells her, I control what goes on in this house. Now, that was a perfect look you just said. The first thing you think is, and as a woman, me and Miss Alves laughs because she be like, she's trying to get her head to move better, and her head kind of go like this. So my first response would have been like, controlling what? Controlling who? Let's first get this cleared up. Okay. Is it because I feel like what? My thought is, we've been taught that men do what? Control everything. Do they? She does all the time. But he's still the what? Head. Who really has controlled this country for a very long time? Who's on every dollar that we spend? So technically, do they control things? Yeah. But as a woman, our thought is no, no, no. We must prove to you that although we've made you think you're running stuff, we decide what you actually run. Freud might have a point. We got some control issues. Perfect example is the country. Okay? And the whole feminist movement came to literally say, we've got power. We still make $1 less than the man in the same place. Okay? So, Freud got some points. He might be a little far-fetched, but he got points. All right, behaviorism. What can I do with behavior? And observe it. Now, behaviorists literally said this. So the behaviorists came out, Watson and Skinner, and they said all of this mushy, feely thing sounds great, but we can't prove this. This is literally hearsay. We need to only look at things we can watch. So the field of psychology started to do a little bit of changing when the behaviorists came out, and they said we need to do things that we can observe, because then we can control it and change it. All of that mushy stuff that you guys are talking about feelings, it doesn't mean anything if I can't actually see it. That was what behaviorism started to say. So Watson and Skinner came out. Watson was the first one that came out what is called classical conditioning. Chapter 4, you're going to learn a lot about this. It'll probably be the chapter you probably cuss me out the most about. But it's okay. You don't want to write that yet, because I don't want you to get all nervous and discombobulated. But don't even write that yet. Just know that he was a learning person. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Watson. Back in when all this started, we didn't have PETA and we didn't have defects. Okay, so things were done to people that were probably not supposed to be done. And what Watson did was what is the experiment called Little Albert. He took a child and he put a bunny in front of it. Some people say a rat. It was white and fluffy. When he would put the white and fluffy thing, he would go behind him and just bang noises all behind his head. He put the little fluffy thing, bang things behind his head. Put the little white fluffy thing, bang things behind his head. What do you start to think little Albert started to do when he saw the little white thing? Freak out and scream. What he realized, Watson said, is we can actually train you to do things literally by linking things to it. Does that make sense? You guys have been classically conditioned about a lot of things. Okay? Your parents have done that. Literally just says is, I have linked this to mean this. How many of you have a set time to eat in your house? Woo, bedtime? My. I noticed this horrible thing. We'll talk about that later. Need to bring that back to the family. Work time. We're getting closer? Work time? Okay. Let's just say you got a 12 o'clock shift. Okay? What happens around 11:50? You get irritated. Oh, God. You've been good. At 9 o'clock, you singing around the house, dancing, clean and stuff. 10 o'clock came, you started to feel a little scratchy. 11 o'clock came, you start feeling like, oh, I'm so tired. Okay, 11:30 on the way to work, you got exhausted. You've been classically conditioned that this time represents something. Does that make sense? Got it? Skinner did a little bit different. Skinner literally said he used what's called a Skinner box, and we'll talk about this again. Skinner said that some of our behaviors actually learn through reward and punishment. Okay, if I reward you, I can make you keep doing something. If I punish you, I can stop you from doing something. Okay, pretty much that simple. It works. Your parents have used this philosophy for a very long time. Okay, who broke curfew ever? What happened? Wasn't pleasant. Locked out. So the idea was, I'm going to show you how this works. If I lock you out, you'll know I suggest you come home before the door gets locked. Reward and punishment. How many of you got really good grades in high school, middle school? From this point, from this side, nobody raised their hand. I was about to get really worried, like, oh my. Okay, how many at least got one good grade in school? What happened when you got it? Because y'all didn't get a lot of them because we already figured that out. So when you got that one good one, what happened? That's why y'all didn't get a lot. Y'all didn't. Yeah, see, that's why y'all didn't get nothing. Now, this is why y'all didn't do good all the time. What'd you get? See, and did you have good grades all the way through? Perfect example. See, this is what happened. See, y'all need to go talk to your parents. It don't matter. The minute that your parents literally say, that is fabulous. You guys have seen this. 3 years old, I draw you a picture of a tree. And I literally show it to you. You're going to do what? I'm 3. Remember, I'm 3. Yeah. And I'm going to be like, they really liked it. What am I about to go do now? I'm drawing you a whole forest. Why? Because you made me feel good. I'm about to increase it. Now I'm 3 and you just a jerk. And I show you the picture and you say what? What is that? There you go. I ain't drawing you nothing else. I'm going to tell you you're not my friend. I hate you. Why? Because I punished you. You made me feel horrible. Literally, Skinner said we literally learn things by that. In your relationships, you guys have done this. Okay? I live with my boyfriend. I need him to take the trash out. Period. Okay? I like the trash to be taken out before it gets to the top. I'm just anal about those things. Don't let it overflow. You see it. So, what I usually say, because I had to condition him to learn when I like it. So, first I will go by the trash and literally say, that sure looks full. And he'd be like, it still got room. Okay, I see how you feel. I got to get you to see how it's got to be happening in this house. So, I'll be like, and I would do little circles around the garbage can. And then he'll be like, you want me to take it out? Yeah, don't touch it. But I'll tell you, once it's taken out, I'll start cooking. Because I don't want it to run over. And I'll just walk away. Guess what happens when I come back down? It's empty. So now when he sees me walk into the garbage, he like, oh, babe, I got that garbage. He's been conditioned. Okay? He's even got really good now that if my car, once the garage door opens, he's walking out with the trash bag. I'm really getting good. That's all that is. Does that make sense? Okay? Behaviorism. You then have humanistic. Humanistic psychology, this is literally the one that I have actually studied and got a degree in, but it's probably one of the hardest ones to understand. Carl Rogers and Maslow. Literally, humanistic literally says everybody has the potential to be good people. Everybody has the potential to be good. We believe in the theory of what is called tabula rasa. That you are born into this world with a blank slate. There is nothing on it. You are a good person. but your environment can actually influence who you are. We must see the good in everybody. We must be non-judgmental and empathetic. Now, how hard can this be? Really hard. Why will it be hard? Bad situations. Does a bad situation make the person a bad person? So is everybody a good person? And that's our thought in the humanistic theory. Everybody has the potential to be great. You do. The problem is, depending on what occurred, you might not have maximized that potential. Okay, so literally, if you come to me as a humanistic therapist, you might come and literally say, and I'll tell you an example in a little while. No matter what you say to me, I must support and honor that you are where you are and not hold your past against you. Okay, no matter what you feel. So one time I have a client. He's about 6'4", about he might almost be pushing 300 pounds, and he was a racist, and I was the race he did not like. But the courts assigned him to me. He had 6 sessions with me. I come into the waiting room. I call his name, and he says, "Who are you?" And I said, "I am your therapist." And from the time he stood up to the time he left my office, he called me every name in the book that he can find, everything but my name. Told me why this was a waste of time, why I was a waste of time, why I was a waste of space, where I should actually go, on and on and on. As a humanistic therapist, I could not say what I was thinking. I literally had to say to him, "I am honored that you feel so comfortable with how you feel and that you are able to express your thoughts so openly." It happened probably until about the third, fourth session. By the third and fourth session, he dropped down to about a half an hour of degrading me. Um, by the sixth session, it was probably 15 minutes. Um, 6 months after he left, he called back and said, "Can I come back and see you?" And I thought, oh. But as a humanistic therapist, I always have to be positive. I always have to stay positive. If a person is an alcoholic and they come into my therapy session, I'm not literally going to say, "Did you drink last night?" I might literally ask the question, "Have you drunk? Did you drink last night?" And they say, "Yes." "Have you drunk this morning?" And they're like, "No." I'm going to celebrate that at least this morning you did not take a drink. I'm not going to harbor on that you drank last night. Okay? Does that make sense? That's the whole idea behind the humanistic psychologist. Understand, as humanistic psychologists, there are certain people we will not see so that we can stay true to our profession. Okay, so there's certain clients that will call me and I will literally tell them, "No, I cannot see you. I will refer you out because I cannot stay humanistic in that setting." Molested children who do, I mean, people who have molested children, I can't, um, I'm not well with it. And domestic violence, I'm not usually really good with the men. I could work with the woman, but the man, I'll probably want to handle him. He had to go by the, and what I literally told him, like, "I'm really so open and I'm happy that you can express yourself. But I need you to cut back a little bit because at the end of this session, we've got two choices. Either I put you in jail for the 6 years that you got to do it, or you're going to work with me for these 6 sessions and work it out." And then he blah 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 blah. "I can't believe they gave it, blah 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 blah." He made it through his 6 sessions. I didn't send him to jail. Don't go humanist. All right. Cognitive. What does cognitive mean? Mental processing. Now, the cognitive aspect literally says it's how you process information. If you go to a cognitive therapist, all they want to do is figure out how do you process information. When things happen, how do you process it? Okay. How many of you had an argument before? How many of you had one recently? Was it a purpose in the argument? What was there a purpose? When you finished, was there a purpose? It was? What was the purpose? Okay. In the purpose, were you successful? Mhm. Who won? That's why it was successful. But the problem is, if we talk to the other person, was it successful? Was there a purpose? Why not? Also, because guess what happens when you argue? There's no processing. There's responding. Okay? You react and respond, but you don't process. The only way you can process is afterwards. Why can you process afterwards? Because now I don't have the emotion involved. Anger stops processing. Does that make sense? You've all done this. After the argument, you say, dang it, I shouldn't have said that. I probably could have said it just a little bit. Or you go home and you review the entire conversation and think, dang it, I should have said, I should have said, I should have said, and I should have said, oh, when he said, when she said, I should have said. Yeah, and then you might even be like, you know what else? Okay? And they like, seriously? It's over. And you like, it ain't over yet. Okay? Why? Because you're now processing because you got out of the situation. All right, so cognitive psychologists literally say, I need you to stop and process first, then speak. Your mother might have told you this. Everything that you think does not need to be said. Why? Because it makes you process before you let it come out. Make sense? So if you got a problem with processing, you would see that psychologist. They're going to teach you how to process so that you can react. Anger management is rooted in cognitive therapy. Yes, definitely. Have you ever heard of people putting the rubber band on their arm to stop from doing something? That's cognitive therapy. It literally means let me stop, process why I'm about to eat this chocolate cake, and then see if I still want to eat it. Okay? Same thoughts. Sometimes it doesn't always work because if you're not processing right. Yeah. I'm going to share Miss Shandora's story. Miss Shandora's probably a size 1. But she literally says, I'm going to go home and run, and then I'm going to go eat my pizza and donuts. And I said, Brittany, pizza and donuts after the run, that makes no sense. And she says, well, if I don't do the run, I'm still eating the pizza and donuts, so what does it matter? So her process was, this run allows me to eat this pizza and donut with an excuse. All right? My idea is if I see the pizza and donut, I gain 5 pounds. She can eat the pizza and donut and nothing occurs. We process pizza and donut differently. Does that make sense? Everybody processes things based on their experience. Okay? We then move to the evolutionary psychology. This literally is the idea that we evolve as to survive. We evolve to survive. We evolve to survive. The evolutionary psychologist literally says we evolve to survive. We create strategies so that we can survive. We create strategies so that we can survive. This can go true to kind of like this class. You're going to take your first exam. You're going to take your first quiz this week. After the first quiz, you're going to probably do some things differently in week 2. Okay? After your exam in 3 weeks, you're probably going to do a whole lot of things different in week 4. Why? Because you're going to learn new strategies and think, okay, what I did before didn't really do good for me. I need to do this. Some of you will continue to do what you've already done. Does that make sense? All right. Do you understand all of the fields, the schools of thought? Yes? Yes. That's evolve to survive. All right. That was the end of the schools of thought. Yes, ma'am. You just want to know that those are only things that I can prove by watching. Do you understand the schools of thought? I'm going to give you an example. You're going to tell me what school of thought it is. Yes, ma'am. Good question. We literally call when we actually do a lot of them, we call them what I call eclectic. You can actually go to a therapist that says they use eclectic thing, which means I use a grab a few. Um, I'm a humanistic psychologist, but in certain situations, I will become eclectic. Like teenagers, I am not humanistic when I work with teenagers. It just doesn't work. So I got to pull some stuff. So when you literally have a psychologist that does everything, they're called eclectic. Mhm. Mhm. Psychodynamic is 12 weeks. Psychoanalysis is 2, 3 years. No, you can actually, a humanistic psychologist can keep you in there for 6, 10 years. I also often tell you therapy is like an onion. Um, when you go pick up an onion at the grocery store, what happens when you pick it up? The little stuff outside falls off. That's the first couple of weeks, months in therapy. You're giving me all of that skin stuff that you're just like, oh, this is why I came. Da da da. I'm gonna literally take a knife and I'm about to go, because what I want is the stuff that stinks in the middle that you're trying to keep away from everybody. That's what I want. So it might take me a minute because you might make me peel every freaking layer of the onion before I get it. Some people just let me go in and stab it in. Some people, even here, being at a psychologist, you have people come in the office and they say, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And I'm like, "Sure." My mother, blah blah blah, and I'm like, "Whoa, woo, okay, let's peel first. You know, what's your name?" Okay, so you have it, so people sometimes feel really comfortable and they just open up. And then some people, I had a teenager literally for 6 weeks, she never said a word. um, she would come in with a little burgundy velvet binder and she would write the entire session, 45 minutes of pure silence of her just writing. And I would literally say, how do you feel? Why do you think your mom brought you today? So I figured, okay, I got to get slick here. So right at fourth session, I was like, I'm going to fix her. I went out and bought me a binder, a hot pink one. I didn't walk in. We both walked in, and I said, hi. And she was like, I took my pink binder out, and I just started. I was not writing nothing. If you had saw my binder, it looked like, but I was acting like I'm doing some stuff, and I'm like, and she was like, and I would look up like, is there a problem? And she'd be like, and she's like, what are you writing? Oh, you want to talk to me? No? And she was like, I can't believe you gonna sit this whole session and write. You've been doing it to me for 4 weeks. So it's like we do those things, and you got those hard to peel, and then you have those people that they tell you whatever. Now, in the field, we get to do a lot of stuff. So we pick our school of thought first. We go to school for it. We then can decide what we actually are going to do. So these are the things that psychologists actually do. The first one is called a clinical psychologist. A clinical psychologist literally does diagnostic therapy. They do your psychological testing. They do psychotherapy. They go in and actually do the hardcore therapy. Diagnostic testing, diagnosing, psychotherapy. They're the ones that when you suffer from bipolar, you're suffering from schizophrenia, you're probably going to see a clinical psychologist. They're going in to do the long-term hardcore therapy. Okay. Your counseling psychology is a little bit different. They're kind of dealing with everyday issues, job choices, career counseling, guidance counseling. They're kind of literally pretty much doing those surface things, kind of the thing of like small stressful situations. You just feel a little stressed, you want to go talk to somebody, you might probably go see a counseling psychologist. Now, uh-huh, it can be. Yeah, you might do a couple of visits with them. Right. You then have a difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Your psychologist is your PhD, MSW. You don't have to write all these acronyms out. These are just all of the ones that they use. These are the initials behind their names. They either have a doctorate, a master's in social work, a limited professional counseling degree, or a marriage and family therapist. These are your psychologists. They do therapy but cannot prescribe medication. You want to know that they cannot prescribe medication. Your psychiatrist has one title, MD. They are a medical doctor. They are a medical doctor that specializes in psychology. They can prescribe medication. That's the issue, and that's a good question, Stacey. All of your doctors, like your physicians, they do a rotation in the psychiatric unit in a hospital, but they don't specialize in the field of psychology. So they might not know all the ins. They might be familiar with the DSM, like we have what's called a DSM. Our DSM is our Diagnostic Statistical Manual. As a psychologist, we have to know when it comes out, what's new in it. Currently, it's got like 480 different disorders in it. We know that this manual just came out May 2014. It's our newest manual. A physician's not really concerned with the new stuff. It's just like, you came in and said, I've got anxiety. Can you give me something for it? They know normally they're going to give you Zoloft. They write your prescription, the end. The psychiatrist might know the new breaking drugs for anxiety because they specialize in the field of psychology and the DSM. So, yes. The only problem is they might not be up to, that's not their specialty. They're not also, your psychiatrist is going to spend a lot of time asking you. The first session is going to be about an hour and 30 minutes. They're going to get background on your mental health, what's going on mentally. Do you have any family members that suffer from these? Because certain disorders are genetically linked. Schizophrenia is genetically linked. So we're going to find out, does somebody back here have it? Maybe you're suffering from it. Your physician's not going to ask you that because they're more worried about the body. Okay? Your psychologist is invested in your therapy. They want to know what's going on. We hope so, but mostly no. They should, but no. I've got a lot of clients that literally say, I've been on Zoloft for 2 years now. And I'm like, well, who's your psychiatrist? And they're like, oh, my physician gave it to me. Because the problem is, just because I said I have anxiety, there might be a root to this that medicine is not going to really cure it. I need to get to what caused it, and I probably could get off this Zoloft you got me on. But they don't. They don't. Now, in regards to pay, huge difference. Psychologists will see you about 45 minutes. We say an hour, but it's really only 45 minutes. And we're going to charge you between $65 and $185 for the 45 minutes. The psychiatrist is going to charge you $65 for 15 minutes. Okay? They've done a residency. They've done an internship. Got the difference? Good. Rarely, but sometimes. I do know one, he is a psychiatrist. He sees a couple of clients. But that's because he's been seeing clients those clients he's seen for so long that he just kept them. But rarely, they make more money the other way. So, all right, your academic psychologists, they literally teach classes and conduct research. When we talk about conducting research, they do what is called pure research and applied research. You want to write that down. Pure research and applied research. Pure research means they literally go into the community and talk to the people they are studying. Pure research, they go into the community and actually speak to the people they are studying. That is pure research. Hands-on, speak to the person I'm studying. For instance, Georgia is number 2 in the highest teen pregnancies in the country. Okay? Pure research will literally mean I'm going to go out and start talking to teenagers. I'm going to ask teenagers, why are you having sex? What makes you want to have sex? What are you doing between the hours of 3 and 6 where sex is the most actively engaged activity in adolescence? What's happening at 3 and 6? Do you have activities you can go to? I'm going to get in and talk to the teenagers. That's pure research. Applied research is when I actually go into and outsource to apply the research to a group. I go to an outsource to apply the research to a group. I go to an outsource to apply the research to a group. No, because that would still be pure if I'm literally getting my sample from the actual people. Apply will literally mean I'm going to go to all the parents and literally say, why do you think your teenagers are having sex? And then I'm going to literally say, teenagers are having sex based on parents' thoughts of blah, blah, blah. I've now applied my research to a group. Compared to pure, I went in and asked firsthand. They just do them both. It depends on your study. I would say that. It depends on your study. Okay. Now, the different types of academic psychologists, we already talked about clinical. What does cognitive mean? Mental processing. We also have developmental. Developmental psychologists actually look at an individual from conception to death. From conception to death. They have actually proven there are things that have occurred during your conception that influences your personality type today. The temperament of your mother influenced a lot about who you are today. Conception to death. Social psychology. How does your environment and social interactions influence you as a person? How does your environment and social interactions influence you as a person? Social psychologist. How does your environment and social interactions influence you as a person? This will be a person. The social psychologist would actually study why does your ethnicity affect who you are? Why does your heritage affect who you are? Why does the community you grew up in affect who you are? That would be your social psychologist. Environment and social interactions influence who you are. Physiological. How does your mind affect your body? How does your mind affect your body? All right, we go back to the applied psychologist. We look at a couple of other things. You got your developmental. Don't worry about human factors. IOs, the industrial organizational individuals. Your IO psychologists, your industrial organizational psychologists. These individuals literally see how does industry and organization affect people. How does industry and organization affect people? How does industry and organization affect people? And how do people affect industry? How does industry and organization affect people? Slides jump by themselves. IOs, industrial organization. How does industry and organization affect people? How do people affect the industry? How many of you ever gone to the grocery store? Some of you have never visited the grocery store. Right? How many of you ever bought cereal at the grocery store? All right. You're 5 years old. And so I'll go back to when we were 5. What type of cereal would we probably really want? Apple Crunch. Apple, who did that? Apple, Apple? Captain Crunch. What we got? Lucky Charms. Fruit Loops. Why do we want these things? It's got sugar. They're colorful. Where are they located? The bottom shelf. Why are they located there? Because I can grab them. I'm going to see them. What color is the box? Red. Why is it red? Because the IOs know that red makes you hungry. Every fast food restaurant, what color is in their sign? Because they know it makes you hungry. Red, yellow, and orange are the 3 colors that stimulate hunger. Every fast food restaurant makes sure they have these 3 colors in everything that they do because it makes you eat. Every chip that you can buy is in what color bag? Red, yellow, or orange. Why? Because it makes you hungry. They know this. The IOs figured that out. Now, you're 23. You're on this health kick. You want to be all healthy. You want grape nuts. Where are they located? Way at the top. How hard is it to find a box of grape nuts? I will tell you as a person who have looked for them. I'm literally like grape nuts, grape nuts, grape nuts, grape nuts, grape nuts. Oh, there they are. What color is that box? White. Now the red color is in the lettering. Now let's look at the cereal and how they made it. IO said, now if you want kids to eat this, colors stimulate them. So let's pour these Fruit Loops in a bowl. Put the milk in it, water in it. Put the milk in it. What's the Fruit Loops gonna do? Turn the milk. Where are they going? Where do you see the Fruit Loops? They float to the top, don't they? They all over, just rolling around. Grape nuts. Pour them in the container. Pour the milk in. Where's the grape nuts? At the bottom. You gotta scoop them to see them. Why? Because their thought is, we don't have to get to you. You chose to eat these rocks that sink to the bottom. Okay, these Fruit Loops is literally, I need to keep these kids active. The whole time they're eating, I'm going to turn the milk colors. I'm going to make these little rolly things float all around. These are great. IOs figured that out. Okay, they've also designed your grocery store. IOs are very smart. They know that everything you really technically need in regards to the essentials of life are on the outsides of the grocery store. Your fruit, your meats, your dairy. All you got to do is go around the grocery store like this and pay to survive. But they said, we want you to get to the middle. That's the stuff you technically really don't need. But how are we going to do this? We're going to line this grocery store with some great advertisements along these aisles. So at the every end, we're going to tell you, sale, free, discount, close out. Why? Because the brain stimulates free. I need that. Sale, I want that. Okay, you're not planning on making spaghetti for 2 more months, but it said buy one, get one free, and you done bought all of the spaghetti sauce. Why? Because the IOs know if I do this, I'll stimulate you. I'm really going to stimulate even more. I'm going to put single items at the cash register. Why? Because to you, buying one isn't bad. Buying a pack is horrible. So I'm going to just make it one, put some yellow signs that say 99 cents. And you're going to be like, oh, just one's not going to be bad. And you're going to grab it. The IOs did that. Okay? They're some smart people. They also do those tests that you take to get jobs. Have you ever stolen before? Have you ever removed something without permission? Have you ever taken something without asking? They ask the same question 5 times. You like, you asked me this all time already. They're doing it on purpose. Because all of you just lied. Have you ever stolen before? Y'all don't even want to admit it. You have. All of you have. We all have. You want to know when you did it? When you went to the bank and they said, could you sign this? And you signed it and then you kept it. And you walked out. You're probably using a pen right now. You're like, where'd I get this from? It write really good. And you keep using it. You did not go, oh my God, let me find out who I took this pen from and make sure it gets back to the owners. No, you stole a pen. Okay, as simple as a pen. Not to mention, in my mom's house, if it was change on the floor, I found it. Okay, my mother's thought was you can't find nothing in my house. But to me, I found it. And I had to find as much change as I possibly can. I knew it was hers because I knew I didn't have it. What happened? I really did what? So the idea is the IOs are trying to see how many times will you answer no, and they're not really no. Please don't be like, yes, I stole. You're not going to get that job. But what they're trying to see is how much time does it take for you to answer the question? Because what starts to happen is they know you're starting to process a conscious thought. Have you ever taken something without asking and you're like, ooh, I have, but compared to just no. Now they know you're not using too much consciousness. It's all part of the IOs. Okay? Smart group of people. Personality. They're looking at your personality type. Simply as that. Personality. Decide your personality type. Personality psychologist. Decide your personality type. We've already talked about social psychology. Sports psychology. Probably one of the best jobs you can ever have. These individuals work with sports teams to process victory and loss. They work with sports teams to process victory and loss. They paid them $180,000 a year. So for LeBron just lost his game, the psychologist comes in and says, LeBron, how do you feel about that loss? It's okay. You've won before. You're going to lose a couple of times. Are you okay? And he's going to be like, I'm making it. All right. And he's going to leave. Yes, we do the MIG. We do them. We'll talk about them. Just literally deal with sports teams. You usually see them in a lot of your NFLs and NBAs. Myers-Briggs, I'll bring one in. And when we get to the IQs, I'll bring it in. Yeah, I'll bring it in to let you see it. It's just a stupid test. School psychology, these are your testers. This is all they do. They test. School psychologists simply just test. School psychologists simply just test. That's all they do, testing. They are the people who decide if a person is gifted or special education. Do they need resources or they need an IEP, which is called an individualized education plan? That is your school psychologist. They write those up. Okay? Now, this is something you want to know and write down and understand. We've actually now go into our research methods. To do research, we do research in a few ways. The first one we do is naturalistic observation. We watch people in their natural setting. Naturalistic observation, we watch people in their natural setting. Naturalistic observation, we watch people in their natural setting. This will be, everybody has seen the glass window where it's the two-way mirror and a person can watch you outside. That's naturalistic observation. Naturalistic observation is now affecting the kindergarten classrooms, first grade, elementary school. You can log onto a computer system and watch your child inside of their classroom from your computer system to see how they really are acting in class. It's just part of the whole, it's not research. That's just literally, it's now being engaged into the educational system. Case studies is when you do a single person to find enormous details. A single person find enormous details. You engage in every part of their life. Case study. Single person, enormous details, every part of their life. And then surveys are pretty much self-explanatory. All right, you need to know. You can generalize on naturalistic observation and surveys, but not case studies. You can generalize on naturalistic observations, surveys, but not case studies. Okay, so if somebody takes surveys and natural observation, I can say women under the age of 20 in Gainesville, blah, 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 blah. If I do a case study, I cannot make that statement. Does that make sense? Correct. You can have a family though. So I can't say do I'm a case study. Oh yes. Sometimes your statistics say that. I always tell people be very careful when you hear statistics on TV. Perfect example. 9 out of 10 doctors choose Crest. Listen what the statement said. 9 out of 10 doctors choose Crest. What's wrong with that statement? Thank you. All they said was 9 out of 10 doctors choose Crest. I'm a doctor. I have no idea about what's good about some toothpaste other than if I like it. But when they put it in a statement, people are like, oh, most doctors choose this. No, I don't want to know if doctors choose it. I don't know how many dentists choose it. What dentists are choosing it? Did they just graduate from school? Okay, do they have their own teeth? I need to know some things about why they choose it. But statistics are literally geared towards to get you to buy in. Does that make sense? Good. One statistic now, they literally build jails based on third grade test scores. Third grade boy test scores build jails. So what they do statistically, they take the test scores of third grade boys and then they decide how many jails they need to build. Crazy, isn't it? But that's what they do. The United States bases jail capacity on third grade test scores. They use statistics. Okay. We're going to stop here with the correlation research. In regards to the weekly assignment, you are able and ready to do the assignments that are due on Monday, as well as the quiz. The quiz doesn't test you on these things. You know what? I'm happy you said that, Stacey. Let's just cover this one thing because it might be on it. I'll come back to the other things, but independent versus dependent variable, because this might be on a quiz. I can't quite remember. Independent versus dependent variable. Independent variables can be manipulated. So I am doing an experiment. Independent variables can be manipulated. Independent variables can be manipulated. I can change them. In your project that you are going to do, your critical thinking, you are going to identify 3 independent variables. There are 3 things that you are going to change. Your dependent variable is what you are actually testing. Your dependent variable is what you are actually testing. Your independent variable can be manipulated and changed. Your dependent variable stays the same because it's what you are actually testing. So like say you're testing social media effects on relationships. That's what you're testing. That's your dependent variable. Your independent variable might be men versus women, ages, race, location, time on Facebook. That will be your independent variable because you can manipulate that. But your dependent variable stayed the same. You're still looking at how social media affects relationships. Did you right get that? No, yes, yes, no. Correct. If you read an example on the quiz, it literally gives you an example, and it's something that can be changed or manipulated, like you could do male versus females, you could do ages, that's going to be your independent variable. But if it's literally what you're testing, dependent variable. Have a good weekend. See you guys on Tuesday. Print chapter 2 for Tuesday. We're going to finish chapter 1 and print chapter 2. What'd you say about that? Pure? Yeah, pure research is when you actually go to the source to get your information.